Hi, my name is Amy Walkernagel, and this is my final thesis video. My thesis is that I believe that Andrew Jackson has done nothing of high moral importance that should have landed him on our $20 bill. Andrew Jackson was born on March 15th, 1767 in Waxhaws, North Carolina. At the very young age of 20 years old, Andrew Jackson actually graduated and passed his bar exam to start practicing law. It's important to also know that Andrew Jackson wore many different hats. Not only was he a lawyer, but down the road, he also becomes a highly decorated general in some of the battles that he had been in, and he became a very well-known leader, and this is honestly where I believe he got most of his respect from the government officials for the sake that he was able to be very successful in all of his battles while leading his troops. Note that during this time, the American Revolutionary War was happening. So this was this huge fight over who deserved this land. Was it the Britons or was it the American settlers? So the colonists were very heavily on the same side as George Washington, and there was a couple of presidents in between George Washington and Andrew Jackson, but once Andrew Jackson took the podium into his presidency, that's when the white colonists really turned their attention to him to help with this Indian problem. And let's not forget that Andrew Jackson was a lawyer, so he knows exactly how to word things in a way that it could potentially be confusing to the other party. Against Andrew's best efforts, the Indians are not budging, and this puts him in some really hot water because during his campaign, he had promised that he was the guy that was going to get these Indians to sign these deals and move. And when he couldn't deliver that promise, it really made him look like kind of incompetent. And so at this point, it is now 1831. Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Law in 1830, and he started his presidency in 1829. So he's been in his spot for about 2 years now with not any success. So his idea for starting to pick at this wall between the Native Americans and the land that the colonists wanted was to go to the bigger groups one by one and slowly break apart these larger tribes, taking the most valuable plots of land. And with this, it will kind of show him like that instant gratification of he is winning this war. So that is his plan at this point. And he starts this with Choctaws. So the Choctaws end up being the first tribe to sign this deal and start their journey on foot to Oklahoma. However, during this journey, it was not like an easy, like nice paved road. It was treacherous terrain. They were promised to have aid from the government and also be given food and supplies to comfortably and safely make this journey. And Andrew Jackson pulled the rug out from underneath them and pretty much just left them on their own. But not only that, he did have government officials with them, but it wasn't to protect them. It was to keep them going on the right path to make sure that they did not turn back around and try to reclaim their land. So during this journey, one of the Choctaw Indians had actually spoken to a news reporter, and a newspaper went out saying that this was being called the Trail of Tears and Death. The Indian that had spoken to this reporter had held back in no way. He had said, there's no food, there's no water, we were promised protection, and every single one of our promises were nothing more than a trick and a ploy to get us to leave our land and go to this unknown area now. And what I find so disturbing is that they trusted them and they fought and risked their lives to fight beside them in this war, and ultimately were turned away and pretty much shown that their lives were of no importance to these white settlers or to Andrew Jackson. And this information had actually gotten back to the other tribes, and this was alarming because they're sitting there thinking like, okay, you guys had a pretty good relationship and this is what you do to your friends or your, close acquaintances. Like, that's sick. So this really scared off the other tribes into signing any of these deals. So knowing this, we also should know that the Seminoles were alongside the British side on the American Revolutionary War battleground. And knowing what they know now, the Seminoles were like, okay, this is not going to be good, but we're not just going to stand here and let them take our land, and we're not going to let them send us to our death. So they decided to stay back and fight. So after the Seminoles declared war, this war in itself had lasted around 13 years, and Andrew Jackson lost a reported $40 million to the efforts of this war. So what ends up happening is that the Seminoles take the Everglades in Florida and they keep that land, and some of the other tribes that were sitting back watching what was happening were fearful of their lives, and instead of risking their lives in these never-ending battles for this land, they ended up taking payment and going to Oklahoma. So next we have the Creeks tribe, and unfortunately in 1814, well before Andrew Jackson was president, he actually attacked them and took a large portion of their land. So when they were confronted with this contract, they were like, no way are we going to lose more land. So they went to the government, signed a deal saying, hey, if you protect our land, we will give you a small portion of it. The Native Americans kept at their end of the deal. They gave the government some of their land. However, the shady-ass colonizers ended up completely betraying their half of the deal and did not protect the Creeks tribe on this land. So the Creeks tribe retaliated and they were upset. So they burned down the white people's barns and they killed their livestock, and this really upset the government. So they forcibly removed the Creeks tribe from their land in 1837, which was about 15,000 people. Next, we have the Chickasaw tribe, and the Chickasaw tribe thought instead of, holding their ground, that they were just going to count their losses and move across the country to Indian Territory, which is Oklahoma. Moving on to the Cherokee tribe, they had been smart and they had signed something with the United States saying that pretty much the northern part of Georgia belonged to them. That was their territory and that it could not be taken or messed with. Now, Andrew Jackson is, again, an egotistical maniac, and what he also is extremely shady and sneaky. So his idea for, how to reapproach this is he was just going to play dumb and act like he had no idea that the Supreme Court had passed this law, pretty much saying that this tribe had to be left alone. So Andrew Jackson went down to the tribe and spoke to 500 of the Cherokee tribe members and pretty much said to them, if you guys let me have this land, you will be done with all this drama. You guys can live in peace. I promise to give you a very generous compensation for your willingness to relocate, and anything that you guys lose on the path from here to Oklahoma, I will personally reimburse you for. So this sounded like a really good deal, and I think at the time this tribe was just so sick and tired of all this drama and just wanted to have a normal functioning life again without all of this drama or like war or battle talk. So they signed this deal. Unfortunately, John Ross was the principal chief, so he was like in charge of all of the tribe members. And at the same time, before he knew that the deal was already signed, he went and got 16,000 signatures pretty much saying that, nope, we're keeping this land, you can screw off. And unfortunately, in the end of all of this, because Andrew Jackson had that initial signed deal from the 500 tribe members, he was able to take the land, and the United States had gained possession over that land. To wrap up my final thesis, I just want to quickly compare the fact that Andrew Jackson is on the $20 bill and Abraham Lincoln is on the $5 bill. I don't understand why Andrew Jackson is on American money or why he is at all wanting to be remembered or why anyone would want to remember him. But then again, the American system for education is so whitewashed into making our history digestible for the children that have to learn it that I feel like they've missed the mark on really his morals, and he's not a man that really anyone should strive to be like. Abraham Lincoln, on the other hand, is somebody who fought for those who could not fight for themselves. And Andrew Jackson was somebody who was taking advantage of those who couldn't fully measure up to his power, and he completely defiled them and destroyed their lives and is the reason why thousands of people died. Abraham Lincoln fought for slavery to end, and he won that battle. He deserves to be celebrated and put on the American money because when you remember him, you think about all the amazing things that he did for people who could not take care of themselves or fight for themselves. And when you look at Andrew Jackson, you just see a guy who pretty much tricked Indians out of their land and stole it and went behind the government's back, and he did nothing in a straight path. Everything was crooked and it was deceitful, and that is somebody who should not be glorified on the American dollar bill.